You're 10 years old and your city is dying around you. Not from war, not from famine. From a secret that the people in power decided was worth keeping, right up until everyone you loved started disappearing. The streets of Flevance are still white and beautiful. That's the cruelest part. The buildings gleam like polished bone in the morning light. The amber-lead dust that made your kingdom famous still shimmering on every rooftop, every cobblestone, every windowsill. Your mother calls it the White City. Everyone does. You grew up thinking the whiteness was magic. You didn't know it was poison. And when the world government, the same authority that profited from your city's exports for decades, finally lets the truth slip, they don't send doctors, they send soldiers. The borders close overnight. Your neighbors panic. Your father, a doctor himself, keeps working until he can't anymore. Your little sister, Lammy, holds your hand so tight it hurts. The smell of smoke begins drifting through the window before you fully understand what it means. None of that matters, because the army comes anyway. This is what it actually felt like to live as Trafalgar Law. Not the cool, unreadable pirate who shows up later with a sword and a spherical room full of impossible surgical precision. The real one, the 10-year-old who climbed out of a burning city over a pile of bodies and decided, somewhere in the ash and the grief, that he had nothing left to lose. Here's what nobody tells you about the man they call the Surgeon of Death, and why that title cuts so much deeper than it sounds. You're born in Flevance, and Flevance is paradise. That's not a metaphor. That's what it actually looks like. The amber lead deposits beneath the soil give everything a luminous, chalky glow. Your family is respected. Your father is one of the most skilled doctors in the North Blue. Your mother reads to you and Lammy at night by lamplight, her voice low and warm against the quiet of the White City, each word a small promise that tomorrow would come and look the same as today. The future is a thing that exists and belongs to you. The amber lead poisoning happens slowly enough that most families don't notice until it's already inside them. The world government has known for years, decades possibly. The lead accumulates across generations. The first generation barely feels it, the second generation starts showing symptoms, and by the third it becomes something that hollows people out from the inside. Your city is 3 generations deep. The government kept that information in a filing cabinet somewhere and kept collecting revenue from amber lead exports. When the outside world finally learns the disease exists, not from government disclosure, but from panic leaking through the borders, the reaction is immediate and absolute. Neighboring countries quarantine Flevance overnight. They believe the disease is contagious. It isn't, but fear doesn't require accuracy. Your parents die within days of each other. You watch them go with the particular numbness that only visits a child who's experienced too much too fast. A numbness that sits behind the eyes and refuses to let anything fully land. You reach for their hands even when you know there's no point. That's the thing about grief at 10 years old. The body keeps trying long after the mind has accepted the answer. Lammy is taken somewhere. You don't know where. You never find out. The soldiers arrive with the kind of efficiency reserved for problems that need to be erased rather than solved. You survive the massacre by hiding beneath a pile of bodies, your classmates, your neighbors, people you'd eaten meals with, and you stay there, not breathing too loudly until the shooting stops. You're 10 years old. You have the amber lead disease in your blood. Doctors have told you that you have 3 years to live. What do you do with 3 years? You decide to spend them causing as much damage as possible, because when everything has already been taken, rage is the only possession left that nobody can confiscate. You find the Donquixote pirates the way a drowning person finds wreckage, not by choice, but because they're there and you're sinking. Doflamingo takes you in. Doflamingo is a teenager himself, already radiating the particular charisma of someone who's decided that the world owes him everything and intends to collect. Law looks at Doflamingo and recognizes something, not admiration exactly, but a shared fluency in loss translated into violence. Law wants to die causing destruction. Doflamingo wants to rule through it. For a while, that's close enough. The crew has a hierarchy, and Law is at the bottom of it. That's fine. Law doesn't care about hierarchy. Law barely cares about being alive. He's running on borrowed time, and he knows it, and the knowledge makes him strange, unpredictable, ice-cold in moments where other kids his age would cry, suddenly and terrifyingly calm in situations that should produce panic. The other crew members find Law unsettling. Good. But there's one person on the crew who finds Law something else entirely. Corazon, whose real name is Donquixote Rocinante, Doflamingo's younger brother, is supposed to be mute. Corazon communicates through written notes and enormous dramatic gestures, and the specific brand of physical comedy that results in a man who's somehow always on fire or falling downstairs. Law doesn't like Corazon. Corazon throws Law out of a window the first time they meet, which Law considers a fairly unambiguous introduction. Then Law lets Corazon's real name slip. Trafalgar D water law, and Corazon's entire demeanor changes. The D in Law's name isn't decorative. In a world built on secrets, the will of D is one of the oldest ones, a name that appears across history at moments of transformation, carried by people who exist in fundamental opposition to the world's established powers. Corazon, who's secretly a marine spy embedded in his own brother's crew, knows what that name means. More importantly, Corazon knows what it could mean for Law. Corazon reveals the truth in stages. The silence is a performance. Corazon can actually speak, has been speaking to Law in secret, is one of the very few people in Law's life to approach him with something that functions recognizably as care. He sits across from Law in cold hideouts and drafty rooms, and for the first time since Flevance, someone asks Law questions and actually waits for the answers. Corazon contacts the Marines. Corazon steals the Ope no Mi, a devil fruit so coveted that the world government once offered 5 billion berries for it, a fruit capable of performing impossible surgeries, of curing the incurable, and Corazon feeds it to Law. It works. The amber lead disease disappears from Law's blood. Law is 13 years old, and for the first time since Flevance burned, he's going to live. Here is where the story turns, and this is the part that changed everything about who Trafalgar Law would become. Doflamingo finds out. Corazon has betrayed the crew. The Marines who were supposed to extract Corazon and Law are delayed. Politics, bad timing, the specific cruelty of the universe when it decides a story needs to hurt. Doflamingo corners Corazon before the extraction can happen. Law is hidden inside a chest, close enough to hear everything. Corazon is shot, multiple times. Corazon keeps silent, using the power of the calm fruit to silence everything around Law's hiding place, ensuring that Law's muffled crying doesn't give away his position. Corazon is protecting Law with the last thing Corazon has left, which is the ability to keep Law invisible inside the silence. Corazon dies in the snow. Law waits inside the chest until the Donquixote pirates leave. Then Law walks out into a frozen field with the Ope no Mi's power beginning to stir inside him, and Corazon's blood on the snow, and absolutely nothing left of the life that came before. He's 13 years old. He has now lost everyone he has ever loved, twice. Except this time, someone chose to save him. That's a different kind of wound than abandonment, because survival that someone died to give you comes with a debt you can never actually pay back. It just sits inside your chest the way the amber lead once did, accumulating quietly. You carry it not because you want to, but because setting it down would mean forgetting the person who handed it to you. Law names his crew the Heart Pirates. The heart on Law's Jolly Roger, the spotted heart that would one day be feared across the Grand Line, isn't symbolic in the way people assume. It's not about ruthlessness. It's Corazon's name. Corazon means heart. Law carried the man forward the only way Law knew how, by putting him on a flag and sailing under him forever. The Ope no Mi gives Law a room. Law conjures a sphere, sometimes 30 meters across, sometimes city block wide, and inside that sphere Law is the absolute authority. Law can reposition objects, people, organs. Law can separate a body from its soul, and then reassemble them. Law can swap consciousness between two people, teleport himself, slice through steel like surgical gauze. Inside the room, the normal rules of what can and can't be done in the physical world simply cease to apply. Think about that in terms of where Law came from. Law grew up in a world that applied rules arbitrarily and lethally, where the government decided who lived and who died based on administrative convenience, where a 10-year-old could be sentenced to death by the fact of his own blood. The room is the exact opposite of that world. Inside the room, Law is the one who decides what happens. The epithet surgeon of death sounds like it's about killing. It's really about control, specifically about a man who spent his childhood completely without it, who built himself into someone who never has to be without it again. Law's medical training runs underneath all of it. Law is a real doctor, trained seriously, capable of saving lives in ways that have nothing to do with devil fruit power. Law saves Luffy's life at Marineford with surgical skill and nothing else. No room, no shambles, no tricks. Just training and precision and the specific commitment of a doctor who was raised in the shadow of his father's example before everything else was taken. Rocinante gave Law a life. Law built it into a weapon, but the weapon is also, underneath all the cold and all the distance and all the collected pirate bounties, still a doctor. That part never left. At 13, a boy climbed out of the snow with someone else's sacrifice still warm in the air around him and decided to live on purpose. Not out of joy, not out of hope, not yet. Out of obligation to a debt that couldn't be paid and a name that had to keep moving forward. The man who emerges from that boy is unreadable, strategic, infuriatingly calm in the moments that should shatter him. He builds alliances like surgical procedures, precise, deliberate, always oriented around a specific outcome. He allies with Luffy. Law helps bring down Doflamingo at Dressrosa, watching the man who murdered Corazon get exactly what he deserves. He takes down Big Mom alongside Eustace Kid at Wano. His bounty reaches 3 billion berries. None of it fully closes the wound, but maybe that was never the point. The spotted heart on the flag keeps sailing. Corazon keeps sailing with it, not as a ghost, but as the reason the ship points the direction it points. Law whispers it, not to the sea, but to the 13-year-old still standing in that snowfield. You didn't survive for nothing. The life Corazon gave you, we spent it right. In a world where power is almost always inherited, stolen, or bought, Law built his, from scratch, from grief. From a devil fruit fed to a dying child by a man who chose kindness over self-preservation. That's the real surgery, not rearranging organs inside a room. The surgery of turning loss into something that lasts. There are a lot more characters in this world worth living as. Subscribe, because we're just getting started.